A new poll that specifically looks into the Arab American vote has some pretty shocking results, especially when you look at how the poll was represented in previous election cycles. So apparently, according to this poll that was done by the Arab American Institute, they found that Trump actually leads Kamala Harris by 1 point. Let's take a look at the graphic. Among those that they polled, 42% say that they plan to vote for Trump. 41% say that they plan to vote for Kamala Harris. But the numbers are actually worse when you specifically focus on likely voters, okay? Because when you look at likely voters, Trump leads Harris 46% to 42%. Only 79% of Democrats support Harris, while 89% of Republicans support Trump. And if you want to get a sense of how devastating this really is, well, in previous polls done by the same organization in partnership with Zogby, they found that the Democratic candidate typically beat the Republican candidate 2-1.
And now they're losing. So this is when Democratic officials go on TV and yell at Arab Americans. Don't you know what's at stake? You owe the Democratic Party your vote. Well, the Democratic Party was in charge when their family members were killed, and we paid for it. So if Joe Biden paid for the bombs that killed your sister, do you think you really owe his party a vote? The level of obnoxiousness and entitlement in that is stunning. So I know that Trump is worse for Arab Americans than for Muslims. He's clarified it 1,000 times. He thought Muslims shouldn't even be allowed to enter the country. When he first ran, he proudly declared that there should be a total and complete ban on Muslims. No one's unaware of that. We know he's funded by Sheldon and Miriam Adelson throughout his career, and we know that he's going to serve them. I know all that. Nevertheless, I am never going to criticize an Arab American, especially if their family members are killed by the Biden administration's funding, for not voting for Biden and Harris. You'd have to be a special kind of monster to not understand that concept and blame them instead of your own actions.
So look, the results of this poll definitely unusual. Since we began, and this is a statement from their organization, Arab American Institute, since we first began polling Arab Americans 30 years ago, the community has consistently favored the Democratic Party, with the margin of that support holding steady at nearly 2-1 for the past decade and a half. Now, what's going on? Well, it has to do with the Biden administration. The Biden administration's handling of the crisis in Gaza, however, has eroded that support, resulting in Arab Americans now evenly divided between the two parties. So 38% for each. And by the way, this is also impacting who Arab Americans want in Congress. And so according to the poll, Arab Americans would rather see Congress controlled by Republicans rather than Democrats. And by a slight margin of 46% to 43%, voters in the community say they would prefer to see the Republicans control the next Congress. Now, just over 8 out of every 10 Arab Americans, 81% to be exact, view Gaza as important in determining their vote. But it's not the top issue, which is really interesting. 26% rated the crisis in Gaza as their most important issue, but that comes in second overall behind jobs and the economy.
Yeah, so look, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, his #1 donor is AIPAC. Him and every single Republican leader says that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are wrong on Israel. They say they have not been sufficiently loyal to Israel. And so when Biden once delayed weapons for a couple of days, all the Republicans yelled at him in their fury, "How dare you defy Israel? Israel first, America second." And they were super mad at him. So you give Congress to the Republicans, it's only going to make it worse. And because they proudly declared, you can look up all of their quotes, okay? I understand that. Having said that, when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the entire Democratic Party prioritize AIPAC money over Arab votes, they shouldn't be surprised when they lose Arab votes.
And I don't know how many typically loyal Democratic voters they can lose and still expect to win presidential elections. So what do I mean by that? Look, I understand if you don't like this reality, but this is the reality. Donald Trump has somehow managed to increase his support among the following groups: union members and working class Americans, especially those without a college degree, Black voters, Latino voters, Arab American voters. Maybe it's time to look inward, Democrats.
They're never going to do it. So they're just going to keep losing and losing and constantly being bewildered. The number one advantage Donald Trump has by a landslide, everything else combined doesn't matter. Number one advantage he has is that the establishment attacks him. When the establishment attacks him, he has the perception of being anti-establishment. The reality is he's been part of the establishment and wanted to be part of their inner club his whole life. He keeps telling stories about how he would go to parties with rich people, but sometimes he'd feel a little excluded and he always wanted to be at the center of it. He's always been kissing up to Steve Wynn and other super rich people, constantly doing favors for the rich and for the donors, etc. But the Democrats give him this gift of appearing anti-establishment and populist because they fight him so hard. I don't mean the Democratic Party, I mean all of the establishment. And why do they fight him so hard? Is it because he's an actual populist? Absolutely not. Because they think our job is to suck all the money out of the American people and give it to the oligarchy that paid us. And Trump thinks, no, suck all the money out of the American people and give it to me, my family and my allies, and that's it. So that's why they're mad at him for being selfish, but they've given him the most ironic gift of all time, appearing to be anti-establishment. But by the way, this stuff that we just told you, for a lot of you, it'll seem clear. You'll be like, oh, I totally get it, right? If I say this in Washington, and I have, they look at me like I got two heads. They think I'm the craziest person in America. They're like, ridiculous. No way. And so, okay, keep ignoring it, and you're losing, you're tied at this point within the margin of error in almost all the swing states with a guy who thought it was okay to murder his vice president and terminate the Constitution. You're losing to that clown, narcissist, madman because you don't see how much the American people despise the establishment.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.